somewhere in the forgotten orchard of whispering apples always carried a gentle hum, a chorus of unseen forces stirring through the boughs. Today, though, it felt heavier, laden with an unspoken tension that tightened your chest. You stood beneath a particularly gnarled branch, a cluster of sun-dappled, russet apples dangling just out of reach. Your fingers, calloused from countless hours spent tracing the intricate lines of ancient maps and calibrating delicate navigational instruments, twitched with an unfamiliar restlessness. You were an aspiring compass keeper, and even the most serene moments in this orchard, a place usually synonymous with quiet contemplation, now resonated with an almost unbearable stillness, save for the insistent beat of your own heart. The worn, brass compass in your palm felt warm, a familiar weight. Its needle quivered, not toward any cardinal direction, but subtly, as if picking up on some distant tremor in the fabric of the world itself. You leaned closer, your breath stirring the dust motes dancing in a shaft of light. The orchard floor, usually soft underfoot with fallen leaves and petals, seemed to amplify the gentle scuff of your boots as you shifted your weight. Thumpes HH, thumpes HH. Each sound echoed, a rhythmic counterpoint to the distant, almost imperceptible sigh of the whispering apples, their silent conversations weaving through the dappled canopy above. You often found yourself lost in this simple cadence, your own presence announced, and then swallowed by the vast quiet. Jasper Chime, your mentor, and more importantly, a friendship blossom guardian, materialized beside you with the soft rustle of a dozen forgotten dreams. He didn't walk so much as he simply became present, his movements as fluid and unhurried as the gentle drifting of a lumina leaf on a summer breeze. His eyes, the color of moss after spring rain, held a twinkle that promised both profound wisdom and the hint of an imminent, joyful chuckle. He carried his own well-worn compass, a larger, more ornate device inlaid with mother of pearl, and its silver chain glinted softly as he turned his wrist. Feeling the hum today, little aspiring compass keeper, Jasper's voice was like the softest chime of wind bells, carrying a warmth that settled deep in your bones. He always knew. He always seemed to sense the subtle shifts, the invisible currents that guided your spirit. You nodded, a single, sharp movement. It's different, like the orchard is holding its breath. Jasper's gaze drifted upwards, following the unseen paths of the wind through the branches. The world is always breathing, my friend. Sometimes it merely breathes deeper or exhales with a little more urgency. The oath of the open road, you remember it, yes, the oath. A guiding principle for all travelers, encouraging kindness and assistance to fellow adventurers. It was the very bedrock of your aspirations, the reason you dedicated your days to mastering the compass, to learning the forgotten roots and the hidden languages of the land. Your goal, to help the glimmer gnomes retrieve their misplaced tools, was a small, practical manifestation of that oath, a way to ensure the delicate balance of their lives, and by extension, the orchards remained undisturbed. Always, you affirmed, clutching your compass a little tighter, to offer aid, to lend a hand, to illuminate the path for those who stray. Indeed, Jasper murmured, a faint smile playing on his lips. And sometimes the straying is not of the foot, but of the heart, or perhaps of an entire migratory pattern. His eyes, twinkling now with a more profound concern, finally settled on you. The sky whales, my dear aspiring, they are in distress. Your breath hitched. Sky whales, majestic leviathan creatures of the upper currents, their vast, silent migrations across the heavens were a sight of unparalleled wonder. To see one, even from a distance, was considered a blessing. But to hear of their distress, it was like hearing the very sky weep. "What's happened?" you asked, your voice barely a whisper, the question feeling too fragile for the immensity of the concern it carried. "A young one," Jasper said, his usual cheer momentarily dimmed. "Separated from its pod. It wandered too far south, caught in a rogue updraft, perhaps. Now it lingers, lost and calling, in the upper reaches of the whispering peaks, just beyond the orchard's gentle embrace. A young sky whale, alone." The image pierced you, a profound sense of sympathy mixing with a nascent fear. The oath of the open road echoed in your mind, suddenly amplified, its meaning deepening. This wasn't just about lost tools or mislaid paths. It was about a primal call for help, a creature adrift in a world too vast for its fledgling understanding. Your secret, the one you kept buried deep beneath your meticulous charts and calculations, your fervent, almost impossible wish to one day ride a sky whale, resurfaced, a sudden, burning ember in your chest. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying, a dream so grand it often felt like hubris. The glimmer gnomes, you started, the practical part of your mind, immediately trying to reconcile this new, monumental task with your established objective. The tiny, industrious glimmer gnomes, whose entire lives revolved around the precise tending of the orchard, had been in a quiet panic for days. Their miniature hoes, their specialized pruning shears, their tiny watering cans, all vanished. You had promised to help, knowing their meticulous work was vital to the orchard's health, ensuring the whispered wisdom of the apples continued to flow. Jasper understood your hesitation, the internal battle playing out across your features. The glimmer gnomes will need their tools, yes, and we will help them. But the sky whale calf, its plight is more immediate, more perilous. The mother whale, the matron of the azure currents, will be beside herself. The entire migratory pattern of the pods could be disrupted, throwing the balance of the air currents, even the very weather patterns, into disarray. This is the very essence of the oath, my aspiring. To choose the path that offers the most succor, the greatest good. You nodded slowly, the logic irrefutable, yet your mind still whirled. Your flaw, the tendency to overthink simple problems, began to assert itself. How could you possibly help a sky whale calf? You, a mere aspiring compass keeper, bound by gravity and the limits of the earth. Where did one even begin to search for a lost sky leviathan? What path would a compass even indicate? The questions spiraled, each one branching into a dozen more, a dense thicket of uncertainty. But how? You finally managed, the word barely audible, lost in the echoing quiet of your own apprehension. "I track paths on the ground, Jasper, I read the earth, the stars, not the sky currents, not the ethereal trails of whales. Jasper chuckled, a sound like autumn leaves skittering across cobblestones. Ah, but the principles are the same, my friend. The wind has its currents, just as the rivers have theirs. The stars guide the seafarer and the skyfarer alike. And most importantly, the heart has its own compass, often the truest of them all. He clapped a gentle hand on your shoulder, his touch surprisingly firm. Come, first, we must see the extent of the problem. Perhaps we'll find a sign, a whisper in the wind that points us in the right direction. And perhaps, even now, the glimmer gnome's misplaced tools might offer an unexpected clue. With Jasper's words, a sliver of hope, tenuous but persistent, pushed through the cloud of your overthinking. You tightened your grip on your compass and followed him. The familiar thumpes hh of your footsteps now carrying a new resolve, reverberating through the silent orchard. As you moved deeper into the orchard, the whispers of the apples grew more distinct, not just rustling leaves, but soft, melodic murmurs that seemed to carry fragmented messages on the breeze. You tried to listen, to decipher their cryptic advice, but your mind was too full. The sky whale, the glimmer gnomes, the weight of the oath. Suddenly, a flash of vibrant blue caught your eye, almost hidden beneath the broad, silver-green leaves of an ancient apple tree. It was a single, iridescent lumina leaf, shimmering with an inner light, its delicate veins pulsing softly. These leaves were rare, said to fall only when a shard whirled, a fragment of a broken celestial body, passed particularly close to the earth. You knew of their significance, but rarely saw them this far south. Just as you reached out to touch it, a shadow fell over your hand. Lost, perhaps, a voice, smooth as polished river stone, spoke from behind you. You turned, your heart giving a startled lurch. Standing there, bathed in the soft, filtered light, was a figure of striking intensity. This was Elian Ashwood, the Shardseeker's spark, a name whispered with a mix of awe and trepidation among the travelers of the open road. Their eyes, the color of twilight, held a restless, almost burning intelligence, and their every movement seemed charged with a barely contained energy. Their attire, a blend of practical leather and shimmering, almost ethereal silks, suggested a life lived on the edge of the known world, always chasing the next celestial phenomenon. Elian knelt fluidly, their hand reaching for the lumina leaf with a proprietary air. These are rare this far from the Lumina Grove, and vital. I was just admiring it, you said, a hint of defensiveness in your tone. It's beautiful. Elian didn't look up, their focus entirely on the delicate leaf. Beauty is secondary to purpose. I am gathering these, lost lumina leaves. They are the only true beacons strong enough to guide a wayward, shard-world home. Their voice was devoid of malice, yet held an unwavering conviction that bordered on fierce. Your mind, ever prone to overthinking, immediately began connecting dots. A wayward shard world, lost lumina leaves, your own goal, helping the glimmer gnomes, and now the sky whale calf. Suddenly, you felt a strange, almost unsettling tension in the air, an invisible thread stretching taut between your two seemingly unrelated paths. A shard world, you asked, trying to keep your voice even. Is one close? Elian finally looked at you, their gaze piercing. Closer than most realize. It has been thrown off its celestial orbit, a delicate dance disturbed by forces unknown. Without the collected lumina leaves, its journey home is perilous, risking not only its own existence, but potentially, they paused, their voice dropping to a near whisper, the stability of our very own world. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken dread. The fate of the world. It was a phrase you had heard in legends, in the hushed tales of ancient times, but never one you expected to hear applied to your current reality. You instinctively pulled back, the vastness of Elian's mission suddenly dwarfing your own. Helping glimmer gnomes retrieve their tools felt insignificant in comparison to guiding a celestial body. Jasper, ever the diplomat, stepped forward, his smile gentle but firm. Elian Ashwood, it's good to see you, though I confess, your presence often heralds events of grander scale. Elian rose, their posture radiating a quiet power. Jasper Chime, always the joy-jiggle journeyer, still seeking the origin of giddiness. A faint, almost imperceptible smirk touched their lips, a brief flicker of humor in their otherwise serious demeanor. Indeed, Jasper replied, unperturbed. Joy, like starlight, has many sources. But tell me, Elian, how do you find yourself in the forgotten orchard? The Lumina Grove is many miles north. The straying shard world, Elian explained, their gaze once again scanning the ground, already searching for more leaves. Its ethereal trail sometimes leaves residual energy. And where there is energy, lumina leaves sometimes fall, even in unexpected places. The closer I get to its projected trajectory, the more potent these leaves become. You looked from Elian to Jasper, then back to your own compass. Your head buzzed with 1,000 possibilities. Could the sky whale's distress be connected to this shard world? Could the glimmer gnome's missing tools somehow play a role? Your overthinking brain was already forging improbable links, creating a web of interconnectedness that was perhaps more imagined than real. We have our own pressing matter, Jasper interjected smoothly, sensing your rising internal turmoil. A young sky whale calf, lost from its pod, stranded near the whispering peaks. Elian paused, a flicker of something unreadable in their eyes. A sky whale, that is unusual. Their migrations are so precise. They considered this for a moment, then shrugged, resuming their search. My path is clear. The shard world takes precedence. Its return is vital for the cosmic balance. Their words were a polite dismissal, but they left a sharp edge. The cosmic balance. It was a vast, abstract concept, but Elian spoke of it with an urgency that made it feel imminent. For them, your concerns, even the welfare of a sky whale, were secondary. This was it then, the conflict. Two distinct goals, both seemingly noble, both driven by a desire to help, yet on a collision course. Elian needed these lumina leaves, but what if collecting them disrupted something else? What if your efforts to find the sky whale calf, or even the glimmer gnome's tools, somehow interfered with Elian's grand mission? Perhaps, you ventured, the words feeling clumsy on your tongue, our paths are not so separate. Perhaps the things that are lost are connected. Elian finally straightened, their gaze fixed on you, unblinking. Everything is connected, aspiring compass keeper. But not all connections are equally weighted. The fate of a celestial body versus gardening tools. The subtle disdain in their voice, though not overtly aggressive, was undeniable. You felt a flush creep up your neck. Your goal, to help the glimmer gnomes, suddenly felt childish, trivial. This was exactly what your flaw did to you. It made you question the very validity of your own purpose when confronted with something larger, more complex. But the oath of the open road didn't distinguish between the grand and the small. It simply called for kindness and assistance. Kindness and assistance can take many forms, Jasper said, stepping between you and Elian, his presence a calm buffer. Sometimes, the smallest act can ripple outwards, affecting the largest of designs. Elian offered a noncommittal hum, then, with a final, searching glance around the apple tree, began to move away, their figure merging with the shifting shadows of the orchard. May your compass guide you true, aspiring compass keeper, and may mine lead me to the last luminal leaf. Their voice, already fading, carried a note of absolute certainty. You watched them go, a knot forming in your stomach. Elian's unwavering conviction was both admirable and unsettling. They were so sure of their path, so convinced of the paramount importance of their mission, that it left little room for other considerations. Don't let their certainty overshadow your own purpose, my friend, Jasper said, sensing your disquiet. Elian is driven, yes, but sometimes even the brightest sparks can be so focused on the heavens that they miss the blossoms at their feet. But the shard world, the fate of the world, you murmured, the weight of it pressing down on you, is a concern, yes, Jasper agreed, his expression thoughtful. But so is a lost calf, so are forgotten tools, and sometimes the grandest solutions begin with the humblest acts of kindness. Remember the core of the oath, assistance to fellow adventurers. Whether they journey through space or through an orchard, their need is real. You took a deep breath, trying to steady your racing thoughts. Jasper was right. The oath didn't prioritize. It simply was. And your goal, your initial promise to the glimmer gnomes, was still valid. But how did it all fit together? Let's check on the glimmer gnomes first, you decided, surprising yourself with the clarity of the decision. Perhaps they've heard something about the sky whale, or seen something unusual. Everything is connected, after all, as Elian said. The path to the glimmer gnomes' village, nestled in a hollow beneath a vast, ancient root system, was usually a cheerful one, marked by tiny, meticulously tended flower beds and miniature stone paths. Today, however, a pall hung over it. The usual industrious chatter was replaced by anxious murmurs, and even the friendship blossoms, usually vibrant, seemed a shade dimmer. As you and Jasper approached, a handful of glimmer gnomes, no taller than your knee, rushed out, their tiny faces etched with worry. Their leader, a venerable gnome named Elder Willow, wrung his hands, his usually sparkling eyes dull with despair. Aspiring compass keeper, Jasper. Oh, the calamity, the despair, he wailed, his voice a high-pitched squeak. It's worse than we thought. Not only are the tools still gone, but now the orb of quiet contemplation is missing too. Your eyes widened. The orb of quiet contemplation, the glimmer gnome's most prized possession, a relic said to promote inner peace and clarity. It was usually housed in a small, meticulously crafted shrine in the center of their village, radiating a subtle, calming energy that permeated the entire orchard. Its absence was not merely a loss, it was a wound in the very fabric of the orchard's tranquility. The orb, you repeated, a new chill running through you. This was no mere prank, no simple misplacement. The orb was sacred. Who would take it? We don't know, cried another gnome, clutching a tiny, trembling hand to its chest. It was there this morning. And now even our quiet thoughts feel loud and frantic without its gentle presence. This was a major escalation. The glimmer gnomes hiding their own tools was mischievous. The orb's disappearance felt sinister. Your mind immediately went to Elian. Could they have taken it? But for what purpose? The orb promoted inner peace, not outward guidance for shard worlds. Yet, Elian seemed to collect rare and potent objects. Tell us everything, Jasper said, his voice calm, radiating reassurance despite the gravity of the situation. Every detail, no matter how small. Perhaps it will lead us to a clue. As the glimmer gnomes recounted the day's events, their agitated voices intertwining, you scanned the village. The tiny, intricate homes, the miniature bridges over babbling brooks, the carefully manicured gardens, everything looked normal, yet felt profoundly wrong. Without the orb's subtle influence, the underlying anxiety was palpable. Your gaze fell upon a peculiar pattern in the soft earth near the shrine where the orb usually rested. Not footprints, but a faint, almost invisible tracing, like the whisper of a breeze across fine dust. It was a spiral intricately drawn, terminating in a single, minuscule indent. "What's this?" you murmured, kneeling down. The glimmer gnomes, distracted by their recounting, hadn't noticed it. That's odd," Elder Willow squeaked, peering over your shoulder. "We tidy the paths every morning. That wasn't there." You traced the spiral with your finger, feeling a faint, lingering energy, not the calming energy of the orb, but something more active, something that resonated with the shimmer of a lumina leaf. Your overthinking tendencies kicked in again, but this time it felt less like a flaw and more like an acute observation. The spiral, the lumina leaf Elian was seeking. Could it be a connection? "This pattern," you said, standing up, your thoughts racing. "It reminds me of the energy signature of a lumina leaf. Perhaps even the shard world Elian is trying to guide." Jasper's eyes sharpened. An interesting observation, aspiring. But why would the orb be taken in connection with a lumina leaf? Perhaps, you ventured, Elian believes the orb could amplify the lumina leaf's power, or help them focus the shard world's trajectory. Or perhaps it could silence any internal doubts about their mission. You recalled Elian's single-minded focus, their absolute certainty. The orb, promoting inner peace, might be seen as a tool to remove any potential for hesitation. The glimmer gnomes exchanged bewildered glances. This was far beyond their understanding of gardening tools and misplaced items. "We need to find a lion," you declared, a new sense of urgency propelling you. The sky whale was still out there. The glimmer gnomes needed their tools and their orb. And now, the fate of the world was at stake, possibly tied to a lion's actions. Your compass felt heavy in your hand, its needle still quivering. It was time to choose a direction, even if the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. "To the whispering peaks," Jasper agreed, a determined glint in his eye. "The sky whale, and perhaps a lion, and hopefully the orb, will lead us there." As you left the Glimmer Gnomes' village, the echoing sound of your footsteps took on a more insistent rhythm. Thumpes HH, thumpes HH. Each step was a commitment, a conscious decision to move forward into the unknown. The orchard began to thin as you ascended towards the higher grounds, the whispering apples replaced by the rustle of tougher, wind-stunted foliage. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of pine and distant snow. You walked for what felt like hours, your eyes constantly scanning the ground for any sign of a lion, for another lumina leaf, for anything that might connect the disparate threads of this growing mystery. Jasper, ever observant, pointed out tracks of various forest creatures, identified rare plants, and occasionally hummed a cheerful, wordless tune that somehow managed to lift your spirits despite the deepening tension. The path began to narrow, winding through a jagged, rock-strewn landscape. Ahead, you saw the first glimpse of the Whispering Peaks, their formidable slopes rising sharply into the clouds. These peaks were known for their strong, unpredictable winds, their ancient, weather-beaten stones, and the strange, almost sentient echoes that sometimes carried sounds from miles away. It was a place where sound could deceive, where the world itself seemed to play tricks on the ears. This would be a challenge for your sensory focus. The echoing sound of your own footsteps might become indistinguishable from the mountain's own voice. As you rounded a particularly sharp bend, you came upon a peculiar sight. A signpost, ancient and weather-beaten, stood leaning precariously. Its wooden arm, warped by years of wind and rain, pointed vaguely in 3 different directions, each arm adorned with a symbol so faded as to be almost indecipherable. "Ah, the 3-way riddle," Jasper said, approaching the signpost with a familiar air. "An old trail marker. Many a traveler has spent a good long while trying to make sense of its wisdom." You immediately approached it, your aspiring compass keeper instincts kicking in. This was a puzzle, a navigational challenge. Your flaw, the tendency to overthink simple problems, began to assert itself with a vengeance. You traced the faded symbols with your finger. One seemed to be a stylized bird, another a coil of rope, and the third a swirl, perhaps of water or air. The bird obviously represents the sky whale, or at least the direction of the upper currents, you murmured, already deep in analysis. But what kind of bird? A soaring hawk or a swift swallow? The difference in trajectory could be vast. You pulled out your map, a finely detailed parchment scroll, and began to consult it, cross-referencing ancient markers with the current topography. If it's a hawk, that suggests a higher, more direct path. If a swallow, then perhaps a path following the contours of the lower peaks, where updrafts are more subtle. Jasper watched you, a faint, knowing smile playing on his lips, but he said nothing, allowing you to wrestle with the problem. Then the rope, you continued, growing more absorbed. Does it signify a literal climbing path or a metaphorical entanglement? Perhaps the intertwining paths of fate, or even the binding currents of the wind. You tapped your chin, your brow furrowed in concentration. If it's a literal path, it would suggest a more arduous, slower ascent. But if metaphorical, it could mean the most direct route requires navigating complex, unseen forces. The swirl was the trickiest. Water or air, a river leading up from the valleys, or a vortex of wind that could carry you upwards. Each interpretation sent your mind down a different rabbit hole of possibilities, each requiring a different approach, a different calculation. You compared the symbols to constellations, to ancient runes, to the patterns of migrating birds. You even considered the possibility of a hidden acrostic or a numerical code embedded within the faded carvings. Minutes stretched into an hour. Then, two. The sun, which had been high in the sky, began its slow descent, painting the western horizon in hues of orange and deep violet. A chill wind started to pick up, whistling through the gaps in the rocks, making the faded signpost creak mournfully. Perhaps, Jasper finally interjected, his voice soft. The answer is not in deciphering, but in simply seeing. You barely heard him, so consumed were you by your mental gymnastics. But every detail matters. The angle of the bird's wing, the number of twists in the rope, the direction of the swirl's curl. This signpost is ancient. It must hold profound, complex wisdom. You spent another hour, muttering to yourself, drawing diagrams in the dirt, trying to overlay the faint symbols with the patterns of the air currents you observed. You imagined all the possible paths, the potential dangers of each, the calculations required to navigate them. The urgency of the sky whale calf, the missing orb, Alien's escalating quest. All of it faded into the background, replaced by the all-consuming, tantalizing challenge of the signpost. Suddenly, a distant, mournful cry, like the sound of a vast, empty cavern echoing with sorrow, drifted on the wind. It was the sky whale calf, closer now, and it sounded weaker. You flinched, snapping out of your intense focus. The sun was almost gone, a sliver of fiery orange clinging to the horizon. The air was cold, the shadows long and ominous. You had wasted valuable time. Oh no, you whispered, a cold dread seizing you. The magnitude of your misstep crashed down, your flaw. You had overthought a simple problem, and in doing so, you had missed a time-sensitive opportunity. The sky whale calf was closer, but the fading light meant a night ascent would be infinitely more dangerous. Jasper placed a comforting hand on your shoulder. The three-way riddle is not meant to be deciphered, aspiring. It is meant to remind us that sometimes the simplest path is the most obscured by our own complexities. The bird always points to the sky, the rope to the mountains, and the swirl to the wind itself. There are no hidden meanings, just clear directions, if we allow ourselves to see them. You stared at the signpost, truly seeing it for the first time without the filter of your overthinking. Jasper was right. The symbols were plain, almost primitive in their directness. The bird pointed directly up a steep, narrow trail towards the highest peak. The rope indicated a winding, but less treacherous path around the base. And the swirl, it was simply pointing in the direction of the prevailing wind, which was currently blowing away from the sky whale's cry. You had focused so intensely on the how and the why that you had completely missed the obvious where. The sky whale's cry was coming from the peak indicated by the bird, the direct, steep route you had dismissed as too simplistic. A wave of shame washed over you, followed by a fierce surge of frustration at your own limitations. This was not the aspiring compass keeper you envisioned yourself to be. This was a person prone to getting lost in their own mind, even when the path was clear. This was a deep, personal setback. "We have to go," you said, your voice tight with self-reproach. "Now." "The night ascent is dangerous," Jasper warned, his gaze sweeping over the darkening peaks. "But the calf's call is indeed weaker. We must risk it." He reached into his satchel, producing 2 small, glowing orbs lumina lanterns, powered by crystallized moonlight. Their soft light cast long, dancing shadows around you. As you began the ascent, the echoing sound of your footsteps changed. No longer a steady rhythm of progress, it was now punctuated by the scrape of boots on loose rock, the occasional slip, the rapid thud of your heart against your ribs. The air grew thinner, colder. The wind howled, a constant, mournful companion, carrying the fainter, more desperate cries of the sky whale calf. The consequences of your overthinking were immediately apparent. The path was treacherous in the dark. Every handhold had to be tested, every step placed with deliberate care. The lumina lanterns barely cut through the oppressive gloom, casting exaggerated shadows that made familiar rocks seem like monstrous, looming figures. Your mind, still reeling from its failure, kept replaying the scene at the signpost, dissecting your mistakes, deepening the sting of regret. But with each upward struggle, a new resolve began to harden within you. This failure, painful as it was a lesson, a brutal, undeniable truth about your flaw. You couldn't afford to overthink now. The sky whale calf needed you. The glimmer gnomes needed their orb. The stakes had been raised, far beyond lost tools. The fate of the world, Elian had said. And if your overthinking could cause you to miss a simple signpost, what other, grander opportunities might you miss when the world itself hung in the balance? This moment, this physical and emotional struggle on the darkening slopes of the whispering peaks, was changing you. It was stripping away the layers of intellectualization, forcing you to rely on instinct, on the raw, unadulterated will to help. The compass in your hand felt less like an instrument to be meticulously calibrated and more like a simple anchor, a point of reference in a chaotic world. Hours later, exhausted and shivering, you and Jasper reached a high plateau. The moon, a sliver of silver, had finally emerged from behind the clouds, casting an ethereal glow over a scene that made your heart clench. There, huddled on a windswept outcropping, was the young sky whale calf. It was far smaller than you had imagined, perhaps only the size of a large boat, its skin a pearlescent white that shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Its vast, sorrowful eye, the size of your head, looked directly at you, filled with an ancient, profound sadness. Its cries were weak now, barely more than soft whimpers carried away by the wind. It was clearly injured, a long, angry gash visible on its side, leaking trails of phosphorescent ichor onto the rock. And standing over it, a figure silhouetted against the pale moonlight, was a Leon Ashwood. Your breath caught in your throat. Leon was not harming the calf. Quite the opposite. They knelt beside it, their hands glowing softly as they gently applied some kind of poultice to its wound. And scattered around them, glowing with an intense, almost frantic light, were dozens of lumina leaves. They pulsed rhythmically, like a chorus of tiny, desperate hearts. And cradled in a Leon's arm, radiating a faint, calming aura, was the orb of quiet contemplation. This was not what you had expected. The scene was far more complex than the simple villainy you had, in your overthinking, perhaps assumed. Leon was helping the calf, using the very lumina leaves they sought for the shard world, and they possessed the orb. Leon, you called out, your voice hoarse from the climb and the shock of the discovery. Leon looked up, their eyes reflecting the frantic light of the lumina leaves. Their face was streaked with dirt and exhaustion, but their gaze was as intense as ever. Aspiring compass keeper, Jasper Chime, you're late. The words held no accusation, only a weary observation. The orb, you said, pointing. And the lumina leaves the calf. What's happening? The shard world, Leon explained, their voice strained. Its trajectory was not what I initially calculated. It's much closer, and its gravitational pull is causing a significant disruption in the upper atmospheric currents. That's what dislodged the calf from its pod. And the same disruptive energy is weakening the lumina leaves' guiding light. I found the calf here, injured and disoriented. Its cries were resonating with the shard world's erratic pulse, further destabilizing its path. You took the orb to help the calf, you asked, a wave of understanding washing over you, mixed with a bitter taste of self-reproach. Leon nodded, gently stroking the calf's pearlescent skin. The orb of quiet contemplation, as you know, promotes inner peace. For the calf, it helps calm its panic, allowing its natural healing to take hold. But more importantly, for the lumina leaves, it provides a stable, serene energy field, amplifying their guiding pulse. The shard world is currently caught in a chaotic energetic storm. Without a focused, powerful beacon, it will shatter. And if it shatters here, the atmospheric shockwave would devastate this entire region. The forgotten orchard, the whispering peaks, everything. The fate of the world. It wasn't hyperbole. It was a terrifyingly real threat. And Leon's actions, which you had so readily assumed were a self-serving acquisition of the orb, were, in their own way, driven by the oath of the open road, a profound, albeit fiercely independent, form of assistance. Their goal to guide the shard world home was not only reasonable but vital, and your own goal to help the glimmer gnomes and the sky whale was now inextricably intertwined with it. And the glimmer gnome's tools, you pressed, a faint, lingering doubt. Elian sighed, a sound of profound weariness. The mischievous glimmer gnomes. Their hiding of tools is a seasonal tradition, a way to test the young, aspiring compass keepers. It's a game, little more. This year, I confess, I encouraged it slightly, knowing I would need to divert attention from my search for the orb. A necessary distraction, I thought, to ensure the greater good. They paused, their gaze softening slightly. Perhaps I misjudged the impact on their inner peace. The central conflict, the core misunderstanding between you, became terrifyingly clear. You had seen Elian as a potential rival, perhaps even a threat, because of your overthinking, your tendency to assign complex motives to simple actions. And Elian, in their single-minded pursuit of a cosmic goal, had dismissed your concerns as trivial, or used them as a means to an end. Both of you were driven by noble intentions, by the oath, but your interpretations of its application had led to a dangerous misjudgment of each other. The sky whale calf whimpered again, a low, guttural sound that shook you to your core. The orb of quiet contemplation pulsed softly in Elian's hand, its light intertwining with the frenetic glow of the lumina leaves. The fate of the world indeed rested on this delicate balance. We need to get the calf back to its pod, you said, your voice regaining its steady resolve. And we need to help guide the shard world. How can we help? Elian looked at you, a flicker of surprise in their tired eyes, perhaps not expecting your immediate offer of assistance after your previous tense encounter. The lumina leaves need to be arranged in a specific constellation, a celestial map of sorts, to create a coherent beacon for the shard world. And the orb's calming energy is vital to keep the calf stable, to prevent its distress from interfering with the beacon's focus. But the storm is growing. The winds are too strong for me to maintain both the calf's care and the precise arrangement of the leaves alone. Then we work together, Jasper said, his voice firm, no longer the gentle encourager, but the resolute guardian. You focus on the shard world, Elian, aspiring, and I will tend to the calf and hold the orb. A sense of purpose, clear and undeniable, coursed through you. The setback at the signpost, the shame, the fear, all of it now coalesced into a sharp, focused determination. No more overthinking, just action. The echoing sound of your own heart now beat in unison with the desperate whimpers of the calf and the frantic pulses of the lumina leaves. This was it. The climax was upon you. The wind howled around you, a relentless, icy force, threatening to rip the lumina leaves from Elian's grasp. The sky whale calf, though calmer thanks to the orb, still trembled, its pearlescent skin rippling with suppressed fear. The moon, now higher, cast a cold, unforgiving light on the precarious plateau. The constellation needs to be precisely aligned with the North Star's true vector, Elian shouted over the wind, their voice strained, their hands moving with frantic precision, trying to arrange the glowing leaves into an intricate, glowing pattern on the rocky ground. The erratic gravitational pull of the shard world is making it difficult to maintain the pattern. I have the orb, you yelled back, holding the sphere of polished stone close to the calf's head. Its gentle hum, though subtle, seemed to have a profound effect, its calming energy radiating outwards. The calf's breathing steadied, its large eye blinking slowly, almost trustingly. You felt its warmth against your arm, a vast, ancient life force struggling for survival. Jasper, ever practical, began to gather larger stones, placing them around the lumina leaves, trying to anchor them against the relentless wind. He moved with surprising agility for his age, his movements a blur of efficiency. The wind is fierce, Alian. Can the beacon withstand this? It must, Alian grunted, their fingers flying, their brow furrowed in concentration. The lumina leaves, once a gentle glow, now pulsed with an almost blinding intensity, the combined energy focusing into a single, shimmering beam that shot upwards into the turbulent, starless sky. Suddenly, a massive gust of wind, stronger than any before, roared down from the peaks. It tore at the makeshift anchors, scattering several lumina leaves like glittering dust. The calf, startled, let out a distressed cry, its calm momentarily shattered. The orb, momentarily dislodged from your grasp, tumbled towards the edge of the plateau. The orb, you cried, lunging instinctively. Your fingers brushed against the smooth, cool stone just as it teetered precariously on the precipice, overlooking a dizzying drop into the inky blackness below. Your heart hammered in your chest, a frantic drum against the roaring wind. I can't hold the beacon without it, Alian shouted, their face a mask of desperation. The carefully constructed constellation of lumina leaves began to unravel, its focused beam flickering, threatening to disperse into chaos. The fate of the world, a phrase once abstract, was now terrifyingly tangible. You scrambled, your legs burning, your muscles screaming in protest. You hooked an arm around a jagged rock, pulling yourself back, clutching the orb tightly against your chest. Its calming energy, usually so gentle, now felt like a desperate anchor, a fragile hope against the encroaching despair. Hold the orb to the calf, Jasper yelled, his voice barely audible above the gale. Alian, focus on the leaves. Aspiring, keep the calf calm. You nodded, though the gesture was probably lost in the chaos. You pressed the orb against the calf's wounded side, murmuring reassurances to it, feeling its tremors, its immense, vulnerable heart beating against your hand. The orb's soft light pulsed in response, a steady, rhythmic counterpoint to the raging storm. Alian, meanwhile, was fighting a losing battle with the lumina leaves. The wind was relentless, twisting their efforts, threatening to shatter the beacon entirely. Their face was etched with frustration and a profound sense of urgency. The shard world is closer than I thought, Alian gasped, their eyes, usually so focused, now wide with a hint of fear. Its gravitational pull is tearing at the atmosphere. If the beacon fails now, it's over. A new idea, born not of overthinking, but of desperate necessity, flashed through your mind. Your secret, your fervent, impossible wish to ride a sky whale resurfaced, not as a dream, but as a potential solution. Alian, give me the remaining lumina leaves, you shouted, your voice surprisingly strong amidst the wind. I can hold them closer to the calf. Its own energy, combined with the orb, might stabilize the beacon. Elian hesitated for only a fraction of a second, their eyes meeting yours, a silent acknowledgement of the sheer desperation of the plan. They understood the risk. To entrust their cosmic mission to an aspiring compass keeper, to a human tethered to the ground, felt almost sacrilegious. But there was no other choice. Quickly, Elian commanded, thrusting a handful of the intensely glowing lumina leaves into your outstretched hand. Hold them high, point them upwards. You gripped the leaves, their light warm and vibrant against your skin. You pressed them against the calf's side, right next to the orb. The calf, sensing your intention, let out a soft, low thrum, a sound that seemed to resonate deep within your bones. The lumina leaves, energized by the orb's calm and the calf's unique life force, pulsed with renewed vigor, their light merging into a more coherent, powerful beam. You could feel the shift immediately. The chaotic energy around you, though still present, felt less overwhelming, more directed. The beam from the lumina leaves, focused by your desperate intent, and the combined energies of the orb and the calf, shot upwards, a brilliant, unwavering pillar of light into the turbulent sky. Elian, seeing the stable beam, let out a ragged breath of relief. They collapsed onto their knees, exhausted, but their eyes were fixed on the sky, watching the beacon pierce the storm. Minutes stretched into an eternity. The wind continued to rage, but the beacon held. You could feel the calf's strength returning, its warmth a comfort against your side. The orb of quiet contemplation hummed steadily, a bastion of peace in the heart of the storm. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the wind began to abate. The chaotic rumbling in the sky began to subside. The clouds, which had been thick and oppressive, started to part, revealing pinpricks of stars. A low, resonant hum, vast and ancient, reverberated through the very air, vibrating through the rocks, through your bones, through the sky whale calf itself. It was a sound of profound relief, of recognition, of home. The calf stirred, its large eyes suddenly alight with an almost childlike joy. It pushed against you, its movements growing stronger, more confident. The gash on its side, still visible, was no longer leaking and seemed to be slowly, miraculously closing. And then, from above, a shadow, impossibly vast and majestic, descended through the parting clouds. It was the matron of the azure currents, the mother of the calf. Her form was immense, dwarfing even the largest peaks, her pearlescent skin shimmering with the soft glow of 1,000 constellations. Her eyes, ancient and wise, were fixed on her child. The young calf let out a joyful, triumphant cry, pushing away from you, its body suddenly light and buoyant. It launched itself upwards, its immense fins catching the last vestiges of the wind, soaring towards its mother. The matron met it, her massive head gently nudging her calf, a low, rumbling purr of relief echoing through the now calmer air. It was a moment of profound, wordless reunion, a testament to the primal, unbreakable bonds of family. You stood there, breathless, watching the magnificent scene unfold, the orb still clutched in your hand, the lumina leaves still faintly glowing. Elian had risen, their face now holding a rare, gentle smile, watching the sky whales. Jasper simply beamed, his joy radiating outwards like the purest sunlight. The matron sky whale, having embraced her calf, turned her vast, knowing gaze towards the plateau, her eye filled with an oceanic depth of gratitude fixed on you. And then, impossibly, she began to descend slowly, gracefully, her massive form settling gently on the plateau, her skin rippling with soft, ethereal light. She lowered her head, extending a vast, smooth fin towards you, a gesture of profound invitation. The twist, the revelation, your secret, your fervent, impossible wish to ride a sky whale surged through you with an overwhelming rush of disbelief and exhilaration. It wasn't just a dream, it was happening. This entire journey, the lost calf, Elian's quest, the glimmer gnome's tools, your own struggles with overthinking, it had all led to this. The matron was offering you a ride, a gentle, unforgettable ride through the clouds. The sky whale, the very conflict that had set this journey in motion, that had tested your resolve and forced you to confront your flaws, was now offering you its greatest reward. It recontextualized everything. Your commitment to the oath, your willingness to help, even your missteps, had culminated in this extraordinary moment. The aspiring compass keeper, so grounded in maps and earthly paths, was about to touch the sky. You looked at Jasper, who simply nodded, his eyes twinkling with boundless pride. You looked at Elian, who offered a rare, genuine smile, a shared understanding passing between you. With a deep breath, your heart soaring, you walked towards the majestic creature, the orb of quiet contemplation still warm in your hand. The echoing sound of your footsteps on the rock was no longer a sound of anxiety or self-reproach, but a triumphant beat, a cadence of hope. You placed your hand on the smooth, warm skin of the sky whale, feeling the gentle pulse of its life beneath your palm. The true journey, you realized, had just begun.